Good morning, welcome back. This is what we're doing today. Simple. Little cell phone cases, okay? Here I have a sample one for an iPhone. Little 3D printed case. All right, these are little examples I have for some kids. Different ones that I have, little snowman, obviously, for myself. These phones are, this was an iPhone 4, I think. Obviously, this is an iPhone 5. And I've got a bunch of other ones as well. How do you do that, right? How do we get this to fit perfectly in? And that's what I'm going to go over today. The first thing that you're going to need, though, is a quality model. So how do you do that, right? Well, I'm going to show you. So let's go ahead and share my screen. All right, so we will share and flip over here. So here is a site. This one just happens to be GrabCAD. There's a bunch of other ones, and people will post their 3D models of phones. It seems to be the easiest way to get it, and you can just type in whatever phone you have. I typed in iPhone 5, whatever you want. All right, and you're going to grab yourself a model. Once you have your model, you can go ahead and open up your model. This one is a 5S. I just happen to have this model already that I use as an example. And you can download it and open it up in Autodesk Inventor. Now, if you open up a different file type, okay, they could be part files for Inventor, or they might be for another program. Or it might just be an STL, all right, a stereolithograph file. So whatever it is, for the most part, you can assume that the file you're going to get is something that you cannot change, okay? You're going to have all of the required geometry here, but you cannot go in and edit most of this stuff. Now, the one I happened to find was actually for Autodesk Inventor. You can actually see I have all of all the measurements and everything right in here, decals, pictures, everything ready to go. So I actually found one for my software, but you don't need to. You don't need to. You can import any other kind, like file you want from any other program. Any other 3D file should work. Just test it, open it up, make sure the part file opens, and you have all the geometry, and it looks right. Generally, the phones that have the most downloads, that's the way I would go for it. And then so that's where you really want to work from. So first step, verify your model looks good. After it looks good, we're going to try to go ahead and get started. So first step, open up a new assembly file, okay? I know it's going to seem counterintuitive because you have nothing really to assemble, but you'll see that in a minute. So open up a new assembly file, and you're just going to place down in your assembly file the iPhone itself. So here is an iPhone 5 I have. Place it down, okay? And again, this is just another generic one I had lying around on my file somewhere. You see this one actually wasn't from in Autodesk Inventor. It's from a different software, so that's how come like you can't really see a lot of the details. But when I highlight it, you can see all the basic geometry is there that I need. Like the screen isn't there, but the camera holes, all the buttons. All right, you can see all the buttons on here, everything that I need. So that's where we're going to start from. All right, and once we have one part in here, all right, we're going to create a new part. So this process takes 3 files. It takes a phone, it takes an assembly, and it takes a mid file. All right, it takes all 3 of these in order to get to a final step. All right, so what is that going to look like? Well, I'm going to create, all right, and it doesn't really matter what I call it. I'm just going to leave it called part 9 because it doesn't really matter. I'm going to select on this surface here. Okay, and that means that it just knows that it's going to be attached to this file. All right, so how do we move forward from here? So right now you can see that there's this little return button up here. Right, that return button is going to return us to the assembly file. So what we've done is essentially opened up a new part file, even though we're already in an assembly. So that's all you really have to know for that. But I'm going to open up a new 2D sketch, and I want to place it. I'm going to place it directly on the screen here. All right, directly on the screen here. And then once we have this, I know that this is coplanar, all right, with the screen, meaning it's on the same plane as the screen. And we can actually project geometry. And I'm going to zoom in, and I want the outside edge of the phone. I'm not too concerned about this button, but I want the outside edge of the phone. And then I'm going to come over here to the side, wherever the outside-most edge is. Wherever the outside-most edge is. And outside-most edge. I'm going to hit escape. All right. And so what we want to do is we're going to use this as a guideline. See how I can make these construction lines? Construction, construction, oops, construction, construction, and construction. I'm going to use these to measure off of. Now, our case thickness needs to be between 50 and 100 thousandths. Why 50 and 100 thousandths? Well, I've printed hundreds and hundreds of these, so I can tell you that that's really the best balance between material thickness, how long it takes to print, how flexible these are so they don't snap when you put them on the phone or doing any damage to your phone. So 50 is on the thinner side, 100 thousandths on a thicker side, so you can split the difference if you like. If you just want to do a quick model to see if it fits, I would just go 50 thousandths, but know that that's going to be thin, okay? Not only that, if your phone has little cutouts in it, all right, it's going to snap in place. Now, I'm going to show you what I mean after we move on with this. So what we need to do is we just need to get some basic geometry that's going to be at least, we'll call this one 100 thousandths, why not? So I'm going to go ahead here and just grab my 2-point rectangle. Okay, and then I'm just going to dimension this rectangle. Now, let's see here. What you can do is you can actually grab this distance, all right? And I want to set this to 100 thousandths or 0.1. And I'm going to go around here, and I'm going to do this for all of these points. So here to here. Oops. From here to here. 0.1. Here to here. 0.1. And of course, here to there. 0.1. Now, I'm doing this just for expediency, right? I'm not really concerned about the overall size and style of this, but overall, that's what 0.1 of an inch looks like. You can see how thick that is, all right? It's even over the buttons themselves. So the 100 thousandths is quite thick for a case, so you can kind of see how thick it is. That's why I say 50 to 100 thousandths. But for what I'm going to do, the case I'm going to build, it's going to be okay. And I'll show you that in a minute. So let's just say that you wanted to make something that was the exact same contour as your phone, just slightly bigger. Well, you can go ahead and project the geometry of your entire phone. And then after you do that, you can go ahead and grab this offset here. And that offset will let you drag a line off, and it'll match that all the curvature of your phone, the geometry, everything perfectly. So you can do that as well. But that is more time consuming, and I just don't really have that time right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish the sketch. All right, now that I have simple geometry here, which is all I'm really concerned about right now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to extrude. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to go to what? Well, I'm going to do to the back surface of the phone. Okay, click OK. So now I have this middle file here that is the exact size and shape of my phone. Okay. And you can see now that you can almost see through it because the surfaces align. And that is going to be the base of what we're going to use. And you can kind of see how we're just going to make a mold. Now, for what I'm going to do, my case, I'm going to build off of this. And I really don't want to have anything in the center over here because I'm going to make a different style this time around. However, if you want this back here to be a little bit thicker, you could always place a new sketch here. So I'll show you this. Let's place a new sketch here. And I might as well do this. I'm going to go ahead and project geometry, finish that sketch, and I'll extrude this that 100 thousandths again. All right, just so to kind of make this consistent. All right, so now I have this set in, and I have 100 thousandths thickness from the edge and on the back all the way around. Okay, so that looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. Make sure I save that. I'm going to return. And now I'm in an assembly again. Okay, just click return. I'm going to save this. Okay, make sure I save this assembly. I'll call it assembly 2. You call it whatever you want. So I'm going to call this YouTube. How about that? Okay. Yes to all. Okay. Make sure I save all the dependent files. All right. So all these files are linked together. So if you change this original phone, you're going to change the case, the mold itself too. So if you found out that, let's say you had like one of these files where you actually have the inventor part, and you find out that, I don't know, maybe this button here is a little bit off, you could actually go ahead and update this button on just this part file, and all the other files will update, including your case. Pretty cool. All right, so what do we do now? So now I have the phone. I have the assembly. I have this weird mid-step file, which is just this block. All right, so what do we do now? All right, now we're going to go and go into part. All right, and we're going to derive a part. So in a new part file, here is derive. All right, so I want to derive a part. I want to navigate over to my phone case, and I'm going to open up the assembly. Now look, we have these little things that are plus and minus. I want the phone case to be plus, but I want the phone to be a minus. And what's going to happen? It's going to delete the phone from the block itself. And you can see what I'm left with. And I even have all the impressions for the geometry that I need over here, which is pretty cool. So you can go ahead and use all of this geometry to cut out the sides. And then here, let me switch back to my camera here. I'll stop this screen share for a second. And you can see that all those buttons, what I've done here is I've just taken this and made a slot to clear the buttons in this one. And the same thing with the top. So I can go ahead and clear a slot using that same geometry, okay? So I'm not really going to do that on this one. I'm going to go and do something a little bit different. But that's how I got all of these. All right, and also on the bottom. So the easiest way is to just use that geometry and cut a slot. And then you can see that there's a little ridge. And that little ridge, actually, you might be able to see better on this one. All right, there's a little ridge in there. I don't know if you can see it. But where the phone has a little contour where the screen is here, then there's a little metal band that comes out and it goes back in. And so this case will actually snap on that. So there's no need to have a lip on your case itself. You just have it the same exact size and it'll pop right in. Pretty nifty. All right, let's go back to Inventor. Let's go back to Inventor. Share the screen again. All right, so how do I want to do this? Well, I just want to go ahead and I only want like these corners here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by, why don't I grab my fillet? All right, and I am going to fillet or round over all of these corners here. And what size do I want to round them over? Well, let's see. Let's just take a look at, maybe look at it from the front here so I can kind of see. And you can kind of drag this into eyeball what looks good. Actually, something like that, about that ½ inch, that looks pretty nifty. So there we go. Pretty nice, right? Now, I'm going to go to the back here. And what I want to do is I want to create a shape. I want to cut a bunch of stuff out. I want to cut out a bunch of stuff here. So I only have like the kind of like an X pattern. So I'm going to have essentially just a little bumper case. All right, I'm just going to have a little bumper case here. So all I really need is closed geometry. All right, and I want this to be nice and even here. So I'm going to start a line. All right, I'm going to take this center point to center point, snap to center, it turns green. Snap to center, it turns green. I'm going to hit escape, and I'm going to select everything, and I'm going to use construction up here. Turn all of those into construction lines. Okay, now I know where the center of this is, so my design can look a little nicer. And I have the endpoints of this curve. All right, so if I use the endpoints of this curve, and let's say I want to design here in the center. Now, this design can be whatever you want. If you watched my fidget spinner videos, you know that we can actually trace all different kinds of designs. I believe I did Hello Kitty as one. So you can actually put an image in the center here, trace this out, and keep that as a positive for the central, well, hub of this case. But for me right now, I'm not going to do anything too fancy. I'm going to grab a polygon. Let's just go with a 6-sided polygon. Yeah, I'll go with a 6-sided polygon. And just something that looks okay in here. All right. And again, it's in the center, so I don't have to worry about it. And here we go. All right. So I'm going to hit escape. I know that that is going to be a positive. Okay. So what now? So let's just take this here, and I'm just going to make some spokes. And again, I'm just doing this because it's nice and easy. And the biggest thing for me here is to make sure that we have closed geometry. All right, and so let's just see. So remember, I'm going to be keeping all of this material that I am putting through here. So I'm not really too concerned about this. And again, I'm going to have a little central hub. And then from here, let's keep here. And if you do this on a laptop, sometimes you run into issues, which I currently am. That's okay. Let's see if I can just do that. There we go. And it doesn't matter if I extend past, actually. All right, let's hit escape. All right, so I want to keep all of this stuff here. So I want to make sure that I don't really have any closed geometry here. I actually want to cut out then all of this other stuff. So then I could take this point, and it doesn't really matter as long as I have closed geometry. And again, make sure I have a green. And since I'm going to be cutting all of that stuff out, all these shapes out, it doesn't really matter what those shapes look like, right? So they can really look like anything. All right, so as long as I have a bunch of closed geometry now, I can go ahead and I can finish this sketch. And I want to extrude, I want to cut. All right, and I can cut, I'll cut all. Okay, move this out the way. Select more profiles. All right. And you can see how you can actually select these individual parts here. And my computer's locking up, which is okay. If your computer locks up, that does happen. All right, especially mine because I have too many files open here. All right, let's go back into here. I can just take this sketch, share that sketch. And let's say I want to extrude again. All right. So you can see right here, I kind of missed. So I'm going to go into here. And in my haste, I don't have closed geometry, so make sure this constraint already exists, so that should work. All I'm doing is I'm going ahead and making sure that all of these things are have coincident constraints, because it was trying to tell me that I didn't have closed geometry here. All right, so let's see if there's another piece that was missing here. No. And again, when it shows up green, that usually means you're good to go. So let's see if I take this extrusion. It's letting me grab more profiles now. Good. All right. It's not really letting me grab more profiles here. Of course. So let's go here, new extrusion. It doesn't like that. All right. There we go. There's that. And again, you can see some of these are just missing a little bit here. Good. And again, I'm just trying to figure out where I missed. You know, sometimes you miss. Close. All right. Let's finish the sketch. And you can see all I'm doing is I'm trying to get all these geometries together. Sorry. So let's see, I must have missed again. Okay, so what am I going to do? I'm going to the sketch. Click. Click. And I'm just going to trace over it again. All right. And sometimes when you're going through and you're doing this, Inventor really doesn't like you to have too many lines, and so it gets mad at you. Turn the visibility off that sketch. There we go. There we go. That's what I wanted. And so you can see now I have a basic case here. I have cutouts here, so this will snap in. And you can see that I have an issue here because some of these buttons are in the way. So I have to modify this a little bit more. All right, and some of these ports here are in the way. So how do we get rid of those? Well, all we have to do is come back around and cut these out. And so you can go ahead and clean up the model. And you can also do things like place more text in here. I can fill it. All right, I can fill it different edges. So if I want to fill it, in here, and you can set this to, 1 or whatever. And you can make sure that all this stuff kind of looks good. All right, and again, the point is just to kind of get you started with this. All right, and you can kind of see how we can go ahead and keep customizing it. What I want you to figure out is how to go in and project these geometries or be able to cut this stuff out here as well. There's a few ways you can do this first, like in the beginning, all right? Or you can just go off of this right now and then place a new sketch here and cut that out. So again, there's a few ways. At this point, you should know enough about Inventor to be able to do this yourselves. I might come back later and do a longer video where I just go through and do a speaker case, which I have over here, which I'll show you. So let's go and come back to my video. So these cases here, what I've done is I've actually had, I'm not sure if you can see on this grainy video, you can kind of see this little line that's right in here. Well, that's because the phone actually stops right there. And the iPhone 5 has speakers on the bottom. So we just added in an extra 1/4 of an inch. And so it's a sound deflector. And so all you have to do is project up about another 1/4 of an inch and have a cavity there. So that way the sound will actually bounce towards you. I call them little speakers because they work like little speakers. They work very, very well. So I'll probably come back and do another video on this, but it's going to be a pretty long one because I'm going to go through and make sure all the geometry is correct. So, all right. So hopefully that was helpful. I want you to just go in and do a basic phone case, something that matches your phone, that snaps right in, and that clears. Make sure you're clearing the cameras. Make sure you're clearing all the buttons. Make sure you're clearing all the speakers, headphone jack, and you can see all that geometry in there as well. So make sure you go in and clean all of that up all the way around, okay? Alrighty, well, hopefully that was helpful, and I'll see all you guys next time.